Right, I'm just doing this small piece for demonstration purposes for the plinth section. I've already checked it for square. I've cut it down to length because it was longer than I wanted. Alright, and I've checked the bed. I'll just turn it round towards the camera so that I don't know if Emily can actually see that, but the bed's running through that way. Alright, so that's going to be the bottom, that's going to be the top. Alright, so it's in its natural bed. Alright, I've already marked a section on the other end. I'm going to mark the section on this end. If you can remember from your tools lesson, what's that called? Mark and drag, well done, or a coxcomb. Right. This one particularly is shaped a bit like a coxcomb. Right. So I'm marking the section on. I've lined it up with the bottom bed and the face. I'm marking it in quite firmly so that when I've finished marking it on, the line will stay on there until I've actually finished working the section. Nice sharp pencil, run round in the line. It's nice and clearly marked on now. Alright. So the first thing I'm going to do in a minute is cut a check out through the length of it. So I'm going to mark that in now. It'll be square. Obviously if it was a bigger stone I wouldn't be able to lift it around on the bank, or I'd have to keep it down flat and I'd have to walk around it. It's on softer stones you use a marking drag as opposed to a scriber, because a scriber is the point of the scriber spreads from its point out quite quickly, and the deeper you mark your line in, the wider the line gets. But with a marking drag it's the same width, so it doesn't matter how deep you put your line in, it stays the same thickness. So I'm going to drag these lines in now. This is the line at the top of the cavetto. By dragging that line in, it gives me a good edge, and hopefully, as long as I'm not too clumsy, I'll end up with a good edge at the end of it. Drag all my lines in. Just going to open up the drag line a little bit. 1, 2 for the drag, and then I'm ready to start sawing. So as long as I saw nice and straight, be careful, don't cut inside the line, I'll form the first fillet for me. Normally I would walk round the other side of the stone and sort it from the other side, but because this stone's quite small I can just turn it round on the banker. You need to sort from each side to make sure you follow your lines properly. Down to the right depth on the other side now. And turn the stone round, finish the cut this side. That's that one finished. Cut. Widen it out to the corner of the drag. The idea of doing that is to make sure that when I start cutting, the saw is cutting down the waist side of the knife. Tell by the feel of this saw that there's quite a big hard left there. And the other side to make sure it's following the line right. You notice I've slowed right down now and I just do it gently. When I get to the bottom of the cut, I don't want the piece to fall out. I've just stopped cutting just short of the bottom, so I give it just a little tap. I'll take that piece out. A little brush. Now that lump that's in the back there, most of you get that when you're cutting, right? So I've purposely stopped cutting. So I got a little lump in there so I can show you how to deal with it when you get one. Most of you get that. Really, if you were cutting properly, you would get right down to the bottom and you'd have a nice fillet in there and you wouldn't have a lump, alright? But I've left it for you. Right, anybody got a dummy I can borrow? I don't seem to have brought one over here. Like, can you all see? And the lump, right, is actually on that part there. So I'm just going to gently chop down. Really down to the right depth now. Just a quick tap in the other way. Nice coarse drag. Check it with a straight edge. Not quite straight, it's got just a little bit of a lump down there. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the end now where I've got my section marks on. I'm just dragging the end in so it's right down to the line. Right, it's nice and straight down the bottom there now. It's not quite straight in that bit. I haven't dragged that up yet. Notice I'm changing the direction of the drag quite frequently while I'm doing it. Don't keep going in the same direction all the time because you'll end up with big dips in the stone. Well, that's straight now. Well, the next bit to do is to drag the line in to the top of the coletto there. I'll have to turn it round a minute so I can do the right way round. And what I'm doing is I'm just allowing the straight edge to be the width of the drag away from the line, so that when I drag the line in, the edge of the drag line's right on where the section should be. And the next stage is to do the chamfer across there and the chamfer across there. So I mark them on. It's going across from the drag line, just touching across the top of that there, look. Right there. I wouldn't normally mark a line on for a chamfer I was going to do across the coletto like that, but I'll just do it so you can see what I'm on about. Notice that I'm keeping the pencils quite sharp and I've got some fairly fine lines, and I'm just touching across the top of the bit that I want to keep on there. So that when my chamfer's through, that part will be just right. take a bit of the waste off both chamfers with the claw tool, and then I'll finish it off with a handle chisel. Chop it in the ends. Just pitch a little bit off there, but I won't go overboard with it because I don't want any bits that should be staying there coming off. And same as any type of stone you're working or whatever you're working, you always take it off in very small layers. Don't go overboard with trying to get right down to where you need to be straight away, because you'll end up with big lumps popping out of the stone. Notice that when I'm working, I'll only work as far as I can comfortably without reaching over too far, and then I'll either change position or go to the other end of the stone. When we get to the end of the bit where it's just where the two ends are coming together, you've got to be a little bit gentle with it, because you'll always get a little lump popping out, and if you try and take too much off, it'll be below where you want it to be. This is the last layer that I'm going to do with the claw. Afterwards, I'll be going over it with a wooden handle chisel. Be careful when you're working and the stone's moving around on your banker, because sometimes if you've got an edge that you want to keep, or you've got a face that's clean, you could be knocking your stone against your tools. So really, if you've got a really good clean job on your banker that you don't want to damage, you should keep all your tools on a shelf or away from what you're working, so you don't get any chips out of it. I've finished with the claw tool now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the end in, down to my pencil line. Same the other end. If you notice what I'm doing, go along for a few taps of the chisel, take a bit of the waste off, and then I'll come back and just go over what I've done a little bit finer, taking the last little bit off, and then hopefully when I'm ready to drag it up I won't have too much to drag off because it'll be down to the line where it needs to be. Tool this off and then we better stop for lunch and then I'll come back to it after lunch. Take notice I stopped before I got too close to the end and turned round and started coming in the other way, and so that the ends of the stone doesn't get broken off.
The shape of the chisel there, does that help keep it straight or anything like that?
When you say the shape of the chisel?
Well, I would have thought, like, looking at it, and you know, if I wasn't told, so you'd use it the other way up. But does that, like that slope there?
Yeah, when you're using wooden handled chisels, 99% of the time you would use them that way up.
Yeah.
Right.
What's the reason? Like, does that help with anything, or is it just the shape of the chisel?
It just depends on what style chisel you've got. Some chisels you can buy that have been sharp on both sides. So you'd have to have it a lot lower the other way because it would be cutting in.
Yeah. So
right.
so does it stop going too deep?
Does to a certain extent, yeah. Okay, so I've just finished tooling that along now. As you can see, it's fairly straight already. Yeah. But what I will do is drag it up just to get it right down to that line that I drew.